Good day, folks. This is Bob with BBD, News with Views. Last week I spent a whole week on agriculture, missed out on the geopolitical events, so there are bits and pieces that have happened over the week, which I'm going to reiterate and connect the dots today. The first is an interesting piece that I read the other day, was by Indrani Bagchi. Accidental rivals, India and China can blame it on Rio. Apparently, India and China are quite unwittingly on opposing sides of the heated political contest in Brazil. One involving COVID shield by the Serum Institute and Coronavac by China's Sinovac. Basically, apparently, Sao Paulo Governor João Doria, who is Bolsonaro's opponent, has picked the Chinese one. Bolsonaro has come out in favor of Serum Institute. So you have this report: Brazil president writes to PM for 2 million COVID shield doses. And what does Prime Minister Modi write? India ready to save world with 2 locally made vaccines. Modi. So I guess this is important, right? This is going to be the big event in India's geopolitical ambitions. If it rolls out its vaccines well, I believe hospitals in Delhi are about to get their first doses on Saturday. In fact, Gangaram probably 500 on Saturday with the doctors. And it rolls out as effectively and efficiently as I've seen the plans that I've laid out, we would have left China in the dirt. And if you can then supply the serum to the rest of the world, I think we'll do one up, because they trust India, they do not trust China or Russia. And what do we have here? Pompeo lifts curbs on US-Taiwan ties. US lifts restrictions on contacts with Taiwan. But hey, let's look what's happening here. Right on dot. In conjunction with this, India signals strengthening of ties with Taiwan. And we both need to do it because Taiwan economy lifted by pandemic haven status. So this economy is really doing well, whether it is in supply chain, manufacturing, demand, whatever you have it, right? China is trying to get its bit in. It says in BRI push, China issues paper on international cooperation. China claims it has actively shared technology achievements with other countries in recent years. And I think if you ask the countries like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Africa, I think this is pure and simple hogwash at its best. I'm quite surprised WHO with the chair being with India in India. I wonder why they're still being allowed to get away with. WHO's India map shows JNK in different color triggers. Rao, China, WHO teams, Wuhan visit preparation underway. Guys have been in preparation for a year. This is a year being used by China to hide its wrongdoings. And remember, folks, I just heard on Vion, $18 trillion is what the globe has lost, besides the lives. Who is going to pay for this? China. I think we've got to go after them and don't let them forget this. China plays down concern for WHO's rare rebuke. There might be some misunderstanding. God, there is total misunderstanding. And please, Dr. Harshvardhan, get up for what is right. And stand up for the world. Okay. What's the rest of the world doing? US, Canada, Australia, Britain condemn Hong Kong arrests of activists. Of course, India is not going to do anything because we are on the wrong side of our credentials in democracy and sensitive issues for us. Will things in 2021 get worse? Seema Sirohi writes. It says, German Chancellor Angela Merkel decided to do exactly what the Chinese wanted before Biden takes charge and attempts to present a united front. Matt Pottinger, the outgoing deputy NSC, is right when he says EU's haste to partner with China's despite its grotesque human rights abuses makes it plain that it wasn't Trump that worried the Europeans, but profits. Washington is clearly stunned. For India, it means Merkel swallowed Chinese aggression in Ladakh to keep German car manufacturers humming. Australia's severe trade difficulties with China be damned. Muscle flexing in South China Sea is okay. The crackdown on democracy in Hong Kong, Tibet and Xinjiang is fine. And who are the Uyghurs anyway? See, but Germans have no soul, right? Having been the absolutely, despicable Holocaust, they continue their wrong ways. I would have thought Angela Merkel, being part of the communist regime in East Germany, would have known better. Indian diplomats led by Ambassador Taranjit Sandhu have been working the Zoom channel with the Democrats, quietly emphasizing the need to keep the focus. India will be an important partner for the US on a way of pressing issues: strategic, Pacific maritime security, healthcare, digital, and environment renewable. So this is important. India must keep the focus. And let me just say this, folks. Everybody is saying this now, that as soon as Merkel leaves, which is in September, this deal is a dead deal, as dead as a dodo. So let's not worry too much about it. He says if the Greens are in the government, that is going to change the way it sounds on China. And that's exactly, folks, what is going to happen come September. What does Edward Lucas write? And this is why we shouldn't worry about the deal too much. US-China deal is bad for democracy. He says, but in Brussels, people are fed up with years of hasty unilateral American decision making. Their deal, they note, is similar to the phase 1 market access agreement struck by Trump administration with China last January. So there is really no big deal here. The deal itself is quite narrow. It replaces and amplifies multiple existing agreements with the aim of protecting investors against arbitrary treatment. Their bugbear include mandatory joint venture with China used to steal technology and other secrets, and subsidies for local competitors. China has also made a mealy-mouthed commitment to the ILO. Okay. Yet the mercantilist influence of big business, particularly in German steamrollers, ethical and security concerns continues to be there. But others will exploit the coming months. Critics in the European Parliament promise to give the agreement a rough ride. Several governments, notably the Netherlands, worry that it's too soft on China. Similarly, Baltic states and Sweden and Poland that rely on the United States are not going to let the European Union get away with it. Okay. And what do we have here? Friends and partners. There is a huge opportunity to move UK-India economic agenda forward in key areas. So a big point for our side, on the side of China, against China. France and its European partners define China as a partner, a competitor, and a systemic rival. A confusing statement has been made and allows us a number of areas to break it open, because you can see here, France is not letting China play anti-India games at UNSC. Macron advisor meets PM Modi, talks regional and global issues. Dole, French president advisor, to hold strategic talks today. They will also discuss improving maritime security in Indo-Pacific region. But this deal has got Merkel and Macron worried. Why? Both of them have not come. After China deal, Merkel reaches out to Modi, proposes India EU trade pact. She knows that if she doesn't balance this out with India, she is toast. All her German companies are toast, because China ain't letting them get away with a two-way street. It is a one-way street. China is playing a holding pattern. China treaty risks upsetting Biden. It certainly will. And what does China say? Stay off Sino-Indian border road. China hits out at the US. Why should they, right? But what's happening in China, folks? Death for former China banker. I ended the last part by talking about deaths to Chinese banker, to show that, you know, the kind of crude laws that exist in China, and these laws are just definitely not good for invention and private enterprise, and it just keeps getting worse. So things are not as hunky-dory in China as we think. But however, what do we say here? By Harsh Pant, Delhi, Beijing battle in South Asia. The important things here. Yet strategic evolution is a constant, and 2020 come to an end. China seems to be facing an interesting scrutiny about its role in South Asia from various quarters. In an embarrassing expose last month, the National Defense of Security of Afghanistan arrested Chinese intelligence agents engaged with Pakistani agents and members of the Taliban. What was funny, Afghanistan made China apologize for it. Then what do you have? KP Oli dissolved parliament and called for fresh elections. China was caught by surprise. China's meddling so intrusive, and even Oli is reported to have told the Chinese ambassador Hu Yankee that he was capable of handling challenges within the party. Wow. China has become more involved in the domestic politics of its neighbor. It is finding out that it's easy to preach to other nations from the sidelines and rather difficult to practice what you preach when you are the focal point of attention. And that's what's happening, right? But the constant lament in Delhi that China is winning the South Asia neither does justice to India's own regional profile, nor does it give it due to its agency of smaller states in the region to pursue their vital national interests in a pragmatic way, right? As the competition of influence intensifies in South Asia and the Indian Ocean region, New Delhi is making it clear that not only will it fight hard to push against the Chinese Communist Party's malevolent malevolent agenda in its neighborhood, but will also ensure that its preferred model of working partnership with its neighbors to develop a sustainable political and economic agenda continues to retain its centrality. That's important, right? But Beijing is losing the plot internally. Beijing reins in tech behemoths it let run free. China starts to rein in tech behemoths it allowed to run free and gain power. To curb Ma's empire, China weighs taking a bigger stake. China plans drive to bring ant to heel. Central bank steps up overhaul plans. Okay. And where is Jackie Ma? Speculation rife over missing tycoon. Okay. Now, what does this say about missing tycoon? As Saibal Dasgupta writes, Mao over Chairman Ma. The narrow view about China's magnate Jackie Ma's disappearance is that it concerns Ma and the 600 billion Alibaba empire he manages. The broader view is a lot different. It may represent a costly mistake both in terms of business diplomacy and domestic politics. If the speculation about the communist hand behind this disappearance is true, and much more. Suppressing Ma would be a bad for morale among the entrepreneur class in China. It would also discourage foreign investors who would see it as increase in political uncertainties in China. And here I am hoping all these big banks, Wall Street, greedy banks of Wall Street and Germany, refrain and realize that their investments could go down the chute, right? With the US blocking Chinese companies that have connections to the military, Huawei is one of them. Beijing needs the help of firms like Alibaba to make overtures in the US and come away with precious new technology. Having lost that, they're in trouble. But what else are they grappling with? Beijing grapples with stagnant inflation. Consumer prices index falls into negative territory for first time in more than... So basically all the numbers are production driven. There is no demand in China either, folks. It is all manipulated numbers. None of the numbers are tying up if you put all this detail together. Then, US widens China crackdown to subsidiaries. Investment ban scope extend after lobbying by State Department. Gets pretty bad for China, so things are not going to be hunky-dory, folks. There are going to be lots of slips between the cup and the lip. We shouldn't worry about that. We should focus on, like I said, some of the parts is greater than the whole. Here, France becomes critically important to us, and France, no matter what happens with the EU deal, France will continue to be our strategic partner and probably will not, I know for a fact, not provide defense technology to either Pakistan or China. And same thing cannot be said for our good old buddies, Russians. What else is India planning to do? Will support Africa without conditionalities, India at UNSC. This is another continent India needs to recapture from China. India has huge cultural affinities, long historical linkages. India needs to use all of that, including companies like Airtel who are visible in Africa, and companies like Tata's and the Mahindras. But what do we have here? Another thing, Indonesia seeks extra investment for sovereign wealth fund. Now, so when we're talking about the sovereign wealth fund, it's time India developed one too. And why? Because here you have Amit Bhandari says to secure India's energy future, create a sovereign fund invest. So we've got it all, folks. Sovereign funds, sovereignty is critical. And as is building strategic affinities with using export of weaponry, India draws up nations for Akash and BrahMos exports. These include Kenya, Philippines, Indonesia, UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Vietnam, and Algeria. All important countries for India, folks. And this is another thing India, like I said, should be participating in. Japan's military unit to make pilotless fighter plans to counter China. This is important. Japan is critical for all this big infrastructure, folks. We really need to get entwined with them. Jai Hind.